Lori, how you doing?
Phone off. Hi,
There
guys.
we go.
Uh,
Hi, Lori.
I have two questions. One is for my sister, my younger sister. Um, she's got contamination OCD. I mean, it's really, really bad. She had it as a child. They
Hmm.
diagnosed her when she was 10. She also has like anxiety, depression, and now they say she also has bipolar. She's overly medicated.
Hmm.
She suffers terribly. And I just feel so helpless. Like I feel like if there's anything I can do for her. Does functional medicine, does that help OCD or help cure OCD?
Yes. Can I go to the whiteboard again for a second? I'm going to jump on the whiteboard here for a second because this is something that lots of us need to hear. Um, so okay, let's change this. So, um, in emotional states, we have like three tiers of emotional states. We have elevated, um, we have average, and we have what we call low emotional states, right? So low emotional states would be things like anger, um, jealousy, um, despair, um, sadness, right? Low emotional states. Average emotional states are states like happy, uh, calm. Elevated emotional states are things like joy, elation, arousal, right? Libido, passion, like really elevated emotional states. So first, I just want to explain what they're saying when, oh, she has bipolar, she has OCD, she has anxiety, probably ADD and ADHD as well, because you can't have those three and not have attention deficit disorder. So first of all, in the whole realm of mood disorders, there are different neurotransmitters that are required to reach different emotional states. The main neurotransmitter of elevated emotional states is serotonin. So the fact that she doesn't experience these emotional states, arousal, elation, joy, passion, very often, already tells me that she is deficient in the neurotransmitter serotonin, and it already tells me that she has severe gut issues. You didn't tell me that, but I know that. I would be very, very surprised if she does not have very significant gut issues. She will tell you she has either regular gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, or cramping, or a combination of all of those things. Because the same neurotransmitter involved in mood and emotion is involved in gut motility. Um, the other thing is, what is bipolar? Um, it's it's an exchange between low emotional states and elevated emotional states without going through the normal cascade of emotion. So, in other words, they go from being depressed, sad, irritable, angry to elated, joyful, aroused, or to really happy. They used to call this manic depression. And now they very often call it bipolar. But when we break down what is bipolar, what is manic depression, it is an exchange of emotional states that actually skip an entire category. So when we talk about like how do we manufacture emotion in the human body? Like what is a mood? What is an emotional state? It is a collection of neurotransmitters bound to oxygen. So in other words, if I want to feel healthy emotional states, I go to the factory where emotions are made, and they are made right here in the gut. Serotonin, the main driver of mood, is made right here in the gut. 90% of the serotonin in your body is right here. If you don't have it here, you can't have it here. Dopamine is also made in the gut. If you don't have it here, you can't have it here. Dopamine is the main driver of behavior. Serotonin is the main driver of mood. When you have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, what is OCD? It is disorganization in the mind. People that have a very active, very disorganized mind crave organization in their outside environment. Since I can't organize myself internally, I try to control my outside environment and I hyper organize my outside environment. Now, this could have on the low end, you're just a neat freak. On the high end, you have repetitive task repetition, that like washing your hands incessantly.
She claws
Um,
her skin. I mean, her skin, she claws herself. She washes herself so much, she's bleeding. I mean, it's like so bad.
yes. Okay. So that's a severe obsessive compulsive disorder. That means that there's an enormous amount of disorganization in the mind, and she is craving organization in the outside environment. So the first thing I would do, I would get a genetic methylation test. Absolutely, positively, she is going to have these two gene mutations,
Okay, so I
MTH.
have that done. I have it. And I told her she should get that done too, because I have
She
that.
has she has to get it done. She has MTH, FR. She likely has a genetic mutation called COMT, catechol O methyltransferase, because there's a category of neurotransmitters called catecholamines. Okay, they're norepinephrine, epinephrine, ephedrine, dopamine. These are the fight or flight neurotransmitters. When your body can't break down fight or flight neurotransmitters, you walk around in a fight or flight state. Okay. You walk around in a fearful state. That is the definition of anxiety. When we ask, if you were to ask your practitioner, what is anxiety? They're going to tell you, oh, it's a fear of the future. It's a sensation of impending doom. It's the sensation of a fear without the presence of a fear. What it is very specifically is high catecholamines. She has poor neurotransmitter production, poor neurotransmitter regulation, poor neurotransmitter breakdown. This leads to mood disorders, right? We describe people and categorize them based on the outcome of their mood. And now you have a mood disorder, you have an emotional disorder, you have a mental illness, but the truth is you have a deficiency in the raw material needed to create normopathic mood. So I always like to narrow these things down. Think of it like the spokes of a wheel, right? It is very unlikely that she has anxiety, right? Was a mental condition, and a mood disorder, right? Um, and ADD and OCD, right? It's very unlikely that all of these systems broke down. What's likely is that one system broke down and caused everything. In the human body, things happen like a domino, not like the spokes of a wheel, right? In other words, one thing usually causes everything instead of having multiple systems fail, right? So before I personally, and I'm not a physician, so this is not medical advice, before I accepted that someone had anxiety, a mood disorder, ADD or ADHD, and OCD, and gut issues and an autoimmune, right? I would say, what thing went wrong that caused everything? So I would start with a genetic methylation test. I actually developed one at 10x Health. I'm still a big fan of that test. I've exited that company, but my team can drop in the chat where to get that test. I formulated that test. I also formulated supplements to answer those deficiencies. And what you can do at a minimum is you can start to supplement for the deficiency that leads to adequate production of the neurotransmitters that cause these conditions, right? And it cannot hurt. None of these will interfere with medication. None of these will interfere with, treatment if she's getting, I'm going to sit back down.
Well, she's on medication. So you're saying, so get the motherfucker test, which this is what
Yes.
it's called.
I didn't say
And
motherfucker test. You said motherfucker
yeah,
test.
that's what it's called. And the COMT test.
No, get a genetic methylation test. She's going to have both of those gene mutations. I'm going to bet my entire career.
Or get a
She has both
genetic,
gene mutations. Okay.
I'm sorry, get a genetic methylation test.
Genetic methylation test. Can you drop it into the chat for her? You did?
Oh, and then you'll show me.
Oh, okay. There's an entire section on this that Morgan is DMing you right now.
Okay.
So look for the DM from Morgan in the community.
Okay.
She just wrote you. Do you see it in the community?
And so those tests, and then when she gets those tests,
It's going to tell you exactly what to supplement for those deficiencies. And so once she knows which gene mutation she has, the supplements are very specific for those deficiencies. And then what we do is we start to produce healthy levels of serotonin, of dopamine, we start to downregulate and break down catecholamines, because most people think that you need the presence of a fear to feel fear, and you don't. If you or anyone you know has ever suffered from anxiety, they will tell you that I very often can't point to the trigger that's causing it, right? I don't have to walk to the edge of a 30th floor balcony and look over to feel, to feel fear. I can actually be eating dinner with my family, sitting in a very normal environment, and all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed with anxiety. Or I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack without a trigger. That is not coming from your outside environment. It is coming from your inside environment. We make neurotransmitters in our gut. These neurotransmitters form every emotional state that we can experience, every mood that we can experience, and they drive all of our behaviors. So when you have a behavioral or a mood disorder, you very often have a deficiency in the raw material that you need to create that emotional state. So in other words, if I was, anybody listening to this right now, if I was able to stick a syringe in your arm and suck out the serotonin, I can't do that, but hypothetically, if I was able to drop your serotonin, you would immediately begin to express depressive symptoms. If I was able to suck out the dopamine, you would immediately begin to engage in dopamine-seeking behavior, promiscuity, gambling, nicotine, alcohol, drugs, narcotics, something that would actually give your body the sense of normalcy, right? And so your sister is seeking normalcy, right? And
so where do I find? They're said in the chat box.
She DM'd you in the community.
Oh, DM.
You'll see a little inbox icon.
Inbox. So it's not in the chat box.
She's also going to email you. You have her email? Okay. She's also going to email you.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then real quick, another question, Joe, for me, you were talking about the IV. I have a functional doctor I go to, and he tested me a couple of years ago with urine for metals. And I had my lead was like 13, my mercury was like 6.
Oh.
And so he wanted to, I think growing up in New York City as a child, the old buildings, the pipes and everything,
Yep.
a lot to do with it. But
also exhaust fumes. Yep.
To do chelation therapy, but it's very expensive. Do you think that's worth it, or should I try doing this detox?
I don't think that it's necessary. You can also do chelation orally. You don't have to actually do it intravenously. You can do it orally.
And it did a little bit, but it still didn't get rid of the lead.
Okay, so on Friday, I am giving everyone in this VIP community the 12-week metal detox for free. It's an exact heavy metal detox protocol, the exact same one that I did. I showed you my testing up here and how I went from off the charts heavy metals. And these were some of the most toxic heavy metals you can get. I mean, this would have sent most people into an absolute tailspin, which is why I chose to do this challenge, because like I said, this is very near and dear to my heart. And I try to be as light on your wallet as I could possibly be. There are some supplements I think are required, but there's a lot that you can do and engage in that is not going to cost you a lot of money. So Friday, please look out for the 12-week metal detox. I'm just putting the final touches on that, but I'm giving it to you for free. If you follow that like a Bible for 3 months, your metal toxicity will get back into.
Do you think I need to get retested, or don't bother, just do this?
You can get retested for peace of mind, but I can assure you that if you stick to it, you'll be metal free by the end.
Okay. And then can you exercise, and do you still take your vitamins during this?
No question. Yeah, you absolutely want to exercise and take your vitamins during that time. Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you so